Welcome back, Top Shelf, to the next episode of Roleplay Reels. This week's podcast is a spotlight on Smile for the Mori. I promise this is still a Top Shelf podcast and not a Dead by Daylight podcast with a name like that. Mori is the person behind the characters Byrd with Arms and Officer Tony O'Donnell. Mori, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm all right. I can't complain.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh boy. Start. Um, so I actually found the city by stream sniping your nephew Cheeky. That's kind of where the name actually comes from. Smile for the Mori is I'm a Ghostface main, and I would throw on an iridescent Mori, and I would always try to Mori streamers and take a snapshot the moment that he takes a picture, and I would post that onto my Steam profile, which it still is actually up there to this day.
Nice. So,
Um,
so how did you find Top Shelf? Because I know Cheeky is not an RPer.
he's not. So one day I actually stream sniped him, and I was watching his stream after the fact, and this is actually right as I got COVID in January, and he after the stream, he sent a raid over to Uncivil Alpha's stream. And of course, Uncivil Alpha at the time was doing nothing but driving around in a black Dominator, cop baiting like hell. And man, that just looked like a shit ton of fun.
Yeah. Also, so this is the first time you've been in an RP server.
Well, no. So I actually at least only Grand Theft Auto RP. I've done Gary's Mod RP throughout the years. I actually got into role playing through Dungeons and Dragons actually,
Okay.
3.5. Back whenever I was probably 13 or 14, my brother would be a DM, and I was a member of the party. Um, Played that probably until I was 17, 18. Um, I actually started DMing myself for about 10 years. Uh, and in between that, Gary's Mod, just a whole bunch of that, World of Warcraft, roleplay servers with that. Far too much. But I was tickled to death whenever I found 5M because it is something I've been looking for forever. And of my friend group, I'm the only one who ever thoroughly enjoyed RP. And I would do like Gary's Mod, hardcore RP servers where you're living like a citizen in City 17. The cops are kicking in the fucking door nonstop. Just stuff like that. So whenever I found Top Shelf, I loved it.
So you have both a criminal character, so to speak, with Bird and a cop. How do you balance that crim life with that cop life and not have them bleed together?
So it kind of goes back to Dungeons and Dragons. I base everything off of the what do you call it? The hell, how am I? Character alignment. I see O'Donnell as neutral good. I see Bird as lawful evil, and
Yep.
I try to stay within those boundaries.
So it sounds like Bird's pretty. You play Bird as a pretty bad guy. How do you do that? Like,
Um, so he does have a line of ethics that he follows.
okay,
um, well, so no women, no children. But he follows the ethics that were basically given to him through Vondo, which is uh, be wary of Burger Shot Gang and don't fuck with the rats. Other than that, everybody's free game.
So Vondo being one of your fellows in the bird gang, can you tell us
Yes,
a little bit
yes.
about the birds?
So we got Vondo, Gabe, Roasty, me, and very recently we got John Burt. John Burt is the absolute wild card, and to be honest, I never saw him actually joining. Uh, I think mostly that happened, hell, probably 2 months ago. I made a joke about, oh, John Burt, like that's kind of close to John Bird. You should join the Birds. And I never heard anything else about it until that night that I just happened to have OBS recording, and Vonda gets a call from John Burt, and I was like, "No shot, this shit's actually happening." All right, well, we're gonna make sure I get a good recording of this.
Hmm. Um, a little bit of a weird question that I haven't yet asked on a podcast, but you have, by some people, been labeled a shitter. Do you consider yourself a shitter?
It's more of a oh man, it's more of a perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So Bird himself was actually created out of, at the time I was upset with the way some of the PD was handled. Um, and yes, he is a shitter, but it was more of a I wanted to push a certain aspect to the PD. Um, and surprisingly, it kind of worked.
How so?
Um, well, we've got a shit ton more bike cops. I don't know. Actually, that's a hard one.
Well, let me ask you this: what do you consider to be the definition of a shitter in RP?
Well, so that's the thing is people see me on bikes and they just outright call me a shitter, which yeah, I am to a point. Like I'll do maybe 2 stores on a bike or something like that, and then just call it for the night on that. I am bad about if I'm out there selling drugs, just doing it, blacked out on a motorbike, going from stop to stop. I don't think I've even been caught once with it. Um, to me, shitters are people who try to shoot first without actually creating a role play situation.
Okay.
I know we've had a couple of those in the city recently. And while you know, people do call me a shitter just because I use a bike a lot, but it's kind of like Hammy uses a panto all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no real difference. I try to keep my shitterness. I know that's not really a word, but I try to keep that down to a minimum. I mean, if I see that the cops are getting frustrated, I just back off. Because the last thing I want to do is just have people flying out because they're pissed off at me.
Mm-hmm.
I do actually and I kind of enjoy it sometimes because I'll do a store robbery and Barton will pull up and she'll give me a picture of the bike that she just took a picture of that I clearly stole, and she's like, "Hey, I want you to hold on to this," and I go ahead and give it back to her like, "No, you're gonna need that whenever you come up empty," and she just cackles along with it. Yeah.
So you also have with Bird um, a business.
Yes, yes,
How did you come
flyers.
about thinking that up?
So flyers originally, I wanted to open up a clucking bell. At the time that I started talking about opening up the clucking bell, that one that's right off of Vespucci, I do believe,
Mm-hmm.
um, or Alta one, um, I started noticing that with all the restaurants that we had, and I was just being told that Uwu was about to open up and Bahama Mamas, um, I didn't want to try to take a piece of that pie because that pie was vanishing very, very quickly. So I thought, well, originally when I flew into the city, I actually had a character who did nothing but tow truck driving. I mean, I did that shit for almost a week straight. And originally, I wanted to open up a tow truck company called Camel Tow, um, which was a great idea. But the character, it it was much like how what the hell's that? Jim Bob. It was actually much along the lines of Jim Bob,
Mm-hmm.
but I absolutely hated playing the character. I just could not stand it. It was ugh. Um,
How so?
so
Like just his persona,
well,
or
the voice that I tried to
oh, the
do with
voice?
it. I mean, I'm Southern. I tried to really draw on the Southern draw, and it was kind of cringy and painful. um, so I decided against that, and I thought, well, what other businesses are even in the city that could possibly need doing? And I was like, well, there's always car chases, and there's always like at the end of it, there's always somebody on foot trying to run away. Well, why don't I open up a getaway driver business? Um, or and I could use that getaway driver business. I could also do gun running, I could do drug running, I could do any number of kind of things that someone creates it and they don't want to deal with the handing off of it. That's where I could come in. Like, I've bought an ungodly amount of drugs from the rats. I am actually still in the processes of buying guns from you guys. um I shit, at any time I probably have 500-600 meth, just because I try to sell the hell out of it as much as I can. Um, but I wanted to do that, but then Tony actually had the idea of me doing the pallets for restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I could be the delivery driver who does the pallets and basically make that NPC irrelevant. So I thought it was a brilliant idea, because the delivery business could be the front of it, while you know doing the Gustavo Fring in the back.
Right. That reminds me. The second half of that season started up today.
Oh my god, I gotta get AMC. I've heard it's so good.
Oh my god, it's amazing. Um, Better Call Saul, in case anyone doesn't know what we're talking about. do you have a um, Do you have a favorite story arc, whether it be your own or someone else's, that you were either involved with or that you just watched through videos or streaming?
So there's actually three of them that I've always enjoyed. One absolutely was your pig. The only time I ever saw your pig, I absolutely noped the fuck out of that situation, because you were eerie as hell. I could not do it.
Actually, I have a video of just people going nope right out of the
It
situation. That's a lot
yeah,
of people
yeah.
did that.
I couldn't, and it was creepy as hell, and like it literally made my hair stand up on ends. Um, which is actually funny, because we've had a couple people try to do it, and it's just the fact that you've seen the actual pig, and then you got some kind of copycat up to it, even though they're playing a whole different story to it. It really kills the vibe of it. You're like, oh, you're not the pig, you're just a phony.
Hmm.
um Say my second one is probably, oh, what the hell is it? um would probably have to be the Cuban story.
Okay,
um
that's a
so
pretty
it
big
kind
story. Is there any
it
specific
is
part
a
of it?
very big story. So Byrd actually used that as the trial run of flyers. um I got a call one day after I posted it. This was back whenever you could post pictures onto Twitter. I got a call that somebody possibly might need a ride some point later in the day. And of course, it was Pregler, and I gave him the rundown. Um, and he said, "Well, I might need a crew," and I said, "Okay." At the time, I really couldn't get my hands on any of the birds to be able to catch them for it. So I actually I contracted out the vagos. First day, complete flop. Nothing ever happened. The second day, by the time that everybody actually got in to do it, and Teja actually flew in, the majority of people had already flown out. And at that time, I had heard that the rats were involved, and that goes back to my original rules of don't fuck with the rats. So I immediately called Rohi and was like, "Hey, I'm hands off of this if the rats are in. Um, nothing personal. I don't do business against the rats." So he said, "Oh yeah, well that's fine. I'm gonna need you guys in tomorrow, but the rats will be involved. But all I need you to do is keep the cops like out of my hair." So of course the next day, it was me and Martine, and we basically just kind of went around the town causing as much hell as we possibly could. We got two of those big ass dump trucks out of the construction, place up
Yeah,
up
yeah.
on Grand Sonora, and we're just driving around the town, just basically trying to draw as much attention away from Pizza This as much as we could. Um, yeah, that was pretty much that whole story. I think it was like soon after that, Teja actually left the city, and that was kind of the end of it.
Okay.
I have floated the idea to Gabe and Vonda, since they kind of run the place, that we should bring on Roja. Um, but I haven't heard anything back about it. And my third,
Interesting.
in my, and my third actually is probably Damien's ascent to judge. Because most of that actually happened since I do believe 1.2, and the majority of since 1.2 has dropped. Me and Damien have actually been completely scouring the city, GPS point by GPS point.
Yes, I've
You know,
seen you
trying, yes,
as I was doing
trying
the
to
same thing.
and trying to find every single little thing. Um, and we did pretty well. Funny enough, we actually found some stuff that I believe will come into play later down the road. Um, but yeah, his ascent to judge, I mean, just watching that from the background has always been great.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely a staple in the city, and I'd
Oh
like to
yeah.
get him on an interview one of these days.
Yeah, I
Um,
always I always joke because it's like whenever you're a kid playing baseball, you got the dedicated hitter, dedicated pitcher. For a while he was just the dedicated hostage.
he still
Like
kind of is.
well, no, I don't think as much anymore
Not
because now
as
he counts.
much, but
Well, no, I think because now he counts as a government employee, he will. People don't want to get that extra charge anymore, so they got to
no.
be
The
careful with
people
that.
that'll think about it, but there's
Oh, this is
plenty of
true.
people that aren't going to think about it anymore. All right, Maury. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Um, and thanks to our listeners for checking us out again for episode 4. And be sure to check us out next week.